So in this part of future value annuities, we're going to have a look at how we calculate towards a goal, what regular payments that we need to make to achieve a goal within a certain time. And then we're also going to have a look at what happens when our payments per year and the number of times that the account is compounding per year are different from each other, and specifically how that actually affects the units of N and what N actually is, because N is really linked to PY rather than CY, which is the reason why when you're not making regular payments, like when the payments are zero, that we generally leave PY to be CY, but we'll get to that in a moment. So here we've got Jess that wants to raise $30,000 for her first car, or for a car, making regular deposits into account that pays 3.45% per annum compounded monthly. How much will she need to deposit each month? So what we're after here is a PMT. The payments and the compounding periods are the same here, so they're both 12. It can be a good habit when you're dealing with this and you've got regular payments to actually do the PY and CY first, like I just did here, just because that helps when you're looking at N. So N here, we're looking at 5 years to get our target, and that's got to be, because we're making monthly deposits, got to be multiplied by 12. All right, then the interest percentage is 3.45%. The present value here is starting with 0. That's what we've got to assume. And finishing with 30,000. It's got to be positive because we're pulling it out of the account at that time. So it becomes fairly straightforward for this particular question that we just now enter these values into our calculator. So that'll be 5 by 12. Hang on. $30,000 and then both 12. So we end up with an answer that's approximately $458, and it's 8308. I have a general rule that if it's above 83 cents, even if it's only fractionally, to break our normal rounding rules and round this up, just because you're going to be ever so slightly short if you don't. So I always say, as a general rule of thumb, just round it up. Even if it's going to be like a minuscule amount that you're not going to have, like be off your target, but we're wanting to make sure that we achieve our target, so we're just going to round that one up. Now, because it's negative, I suggest that you should interpret this. So therefore, Jess will need to make monthly deposits of approx $458.84. Now, this obviously is a pretty good basis to give her an idea of roughly how much she would need to, deposit regularly to achieve this goal. What it probably doesn't take account for, well, it doesn't, is any potential tax that might incur on the interest, but also inflation. So they're things that we're going to be talking about after this, but they're things to keep in mind and start thinking about at this stage. So let's move on to what happens when we've got an account where it's compounding monthly, so in this account here, but the payments that we're making are different from that. So in this case, the Trent's looking to deposit $200 towards his savings every week to try and reach his goal of $45,000 for a deposit for his first home. All right, so you've got the interest of the account there. Now, what's important here is our compounding period is compounding monthly, so this is 12. But because we're depositing $200 each week, the payments per year, we're going to be doing that 52 times in a year because there's 52 weeks in a year. So that's what the PY ends up being. Now, when we go to calculate N, which is this how long here, the units are going to be linked to what the PY actually was in the calculator when you're doing the N. So this will actually give us weeks here, not months. So something that's really important, it's not connected to the CY, it's connected to the PY. The interest rate is 2.8%. The present value is 0. PMT, we're making to the bank, so it's a negative 200. Future value, we're looking at 45 grand, needs to be positive because we're taking it from the bank at that time. So therefore, our N will be, N's what we're after, so 2.8%. Now, when you go to put it in the calculator, when you change PY, often CY will automatically change. So just be aware of that because you'll need to then go and manually change CY back. So we get here, it's approximately 212.45. And like I said, the units of this are linked to the PY. So it's going to be weeks here. So he's going to need to make, 212 and a half nearly. Deposits of $200, and with the interest, assuming the interest rate doesn't change, he'll achieve his goal. Now, if you needed to convert this question doesn't ask you to, but if you did, you would need to use your normal conversion methods to get it back to whatever units you need. So for example, if we need this in years, we would need to divide by 12. Not 12, divide by 52 because there's 52 weeks in a year, and that will give us just over 4 years to actually reach this goal. So if we look at the next question, which continues on this, so Trent is a little bit concerned about inflation rates. So obviously inflation rates will affect the total cost of the home and hence potentially the deposit that he requires. So he wants to reach the deposit in 2 years instead. How much will Trent need to deposit to achieve this? Now, you often find that as we continue, questions will build on from each other, and you'll need to pull out the information from the first part of the question back down here as well. So in this case, we're trying to reach it in 2 years. I'm going to do my PY and CY first here, so 52 because we're still making weekly payments, and we're looking at a CY of 12. Now that's important to probably do here because when we go to our N, you've got to remember that the units for N are linked to PY. So we're looking at how many weeks here. So it's 2 years at 52 deposits per year. All right, so that's what will get you the N. The interest rate is still the same, so 2.8%. Present value is still starting at 0. PMT, that's what we're after now. Future value is still trying to reach 45,000. So now we can plug these into our calculator. Isn't it funny how I just assume that that's an approximate equals? One of these days it will give an exact answer. Hang on, that's all I need to change. So PMT. So we find that our PMT is approximately $420.82. So once again, we've got a negative number here, so let's just interpret it. So therefore, Trent will need to make weekly deposits of approx $420.82. So you can see here the biggest thing to probably take note of is your units that you're dealing with in here are connected to the PY. All right, so that's something that's really, really important when looking at doing this. And yeah, that's probably the biggest take home to get out of when your compounding periods and your payments per year are different from one another.